Hi everyone, welcome to the Self-Published Strong podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Pearson, and I'm joined today by my husband.
Hi, I'm Nolan.
And today we're going to be talking about marketing, my favorite topic. Well, one of my favorite topics. And yours too. Was that a laugh of derision?
No, it's fine.
You like marketing?
Yeah, parts of it, yeah.
Yeah, he's done very nicely on our AMS ads, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Anyway, so we've decided to forego our quote and tip for this episode and pretty much all of the future marketing episodes, mainly because, you know, a tip is basically what this whole episode is marketing. And we're just going to get into the meat of things. But before we do, as promised, my Big Bang Promotions course is available for half off. And you can use the coupon code JustBecause and go to selfpublishedstrongcourses.com. Did you like that?
Yeah.
Just because, yes. Go to selfpublishedstrongcourses.com and find the Big Bang Promotions course. I think you have to click on see all courses or whatever, but it's in there, and then put in coupon code JustBecause. And so we have had a couple problems when people buy the course on their cell phones. Make sure you can see a spot where you need to enter in a coupon code, because if you don't enter that in at before checkout or at checkout, then you will be charged full price. So make sure that you have a spot where you can enter it in. And I know a couple people said that they were only able to buy it on their desktop, which hopefully is fixed by now. Anyway, that expires June 23rd, 2018 at midnight. And that is next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday. So I figure we'll give 2 episodes where we can remind people about it. Anyway, so just a little bit about the course, just so you know what it is. I teach you about Amazon algorithms, reviews and their importance, and launching and relaunching books and series. And then I also give case studies for the relaunches I've done and whether they've been successful or not. And then I discuss in great detail download bonuses, working with other authors, and how to know if the algorithms for your books are struggling and ways to fix them if they are. And for those of you who aren't sure or aren't aware, Amazon algorithms are pretty much your key to making money on Amazon. So you need to pay attention to your Amazon algorithms. And I teach you what is important and how to know if you're having problems there. And then in part 2, I teach you how to prepare your readers for downloading, and I also go over running small, big, and steady traffic promotions. And then I give you my case studies and large promotions I've run, along with things I've learned from each and how I would do them differently. And then those case studies also include several websites that consistently perform well for me and other authors. So there's a ton of meat in this one. It's one of my longer courses, so it's full of lots and lots of meat. So like I said, coupon code JustBecause, go to selfpublishedstrongcourses.com, and it expires next Saturday night at midnight. That's June 23rd, 2018, for those of you listening in the future. We're now listening in the future from when I just said that.
It's true.
Anyway. All right. So we've also decided to add a feature to the podcast where we showcase an excerpt from a book from one of our $3 per episode supporters. So basically, if you support us at the $3 per episode level, you'll get to submit movie ideas, the movies you want us to talk about, and you'll get your questions answered. And then plus we'll read an excerpt from your book. And the excerpt will need to be 500 pages or less or whatever.
500 pages. Wow. I'm very generous.
We'll read the whole book and then some. We'll read 2 of your books.
You get a free audiobook for the $3 a month.
$3 per episode.
Per episode, apparently. We're committing to that.
Yes. 500 words, 500 characters there, including spaces.
I like it. If you can't hook me then forget it.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Boom, done. I'm in.
I actually really, really like what's her face's It Was a Dark and Stormy Night, and Meg Had a Dream. And what is that from? They just made a movie out of it.
A Wrinkle in Time?
Yeah, A Wrinkle in Time, which I would like to watch still. We still haven't seen that one. Anyway, Nolan really wants to see that one.
No, I don't.
He thinks they overdid everything.
Yeah, it's a cartoonishly absurd looking.
Yeah, which doesn't mean it's not a horrible movie, or not a good movie, I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It offends me aesthetically.
I am okay.
It's a visual medium.
2-minute trailers and it offended you.
It's a visual medium. They throw your best stuff in the trailer. can't.
Sometimes they even throw some of the best jokes in trailers and then they don't appear in the actual movies.
Yeah. So, I mean, trailers are lies where they're just sugar.
It's like which one was it? The Pirates of the Caribbean one where...
How he says, take that. And it's like totally different in the movie.
He's like, we can't leave without Captain Jack Sparrow. And he's like, let's go. And he totally says something totally different in the movie. And I was like, that wasn't even fun. It wasn't even funny. The trailer had it right.
Yeah. And then they didn't put it in the movie, even though it was the same scene.
Yeah.
Durr.
Yeah, exactly.
Good job, Hollywood.
Exactly. So I've got actor and stage experiences, 5 of them. So I'm probably going to read the excerpts from the books unless you feel strongly, Nolan.
Oh, go ahead. I sound like I'm reading. And then the thing and the other thing and where am I? And then, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I haven't heard you read for a very long time. Anyway, so the excerpt today is going to be from my book because, and then next week will be from Alice's book.
And then our...
and then my book, and then Alice's book, and then my book, and then Alice's book until we have other Patreon supporters.
Or until we run out of books.
Until we run out of books, which, by the way, I've got over 40 published, almost 50 now. So it's going to be a while. It'll be at least a year before we run out of books. I'm kind of doing a little inward cackle and sinister laugh over here. I recognize you guys aren't my target audiences, but I do know that there are going to be readers. I mean, authors are readers too, and we have fantasy listeners on this show and romance listeners, and so there will be people who will be interested in your book. So I am going to do an excerpt from Discern, Mosaic Chronicles Book 1, which is an award-winning and best-selling urban fantasy novel by me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read that. Says, Nicole put her stuff down, not wanting anything to be in her hands when she picked up the disgusting book. She reached for it, but hesitated. Already she could sense warmth coming from the leather cover, and she wasn't even touching it. Its magical pulses were different from the other items. They seemed to drip off the book like sweat. Nicole hesitated, but wasn't sure why. It wasn't as if something bad would happen, right? She took a deep breath and placed her hands on the book. It shivered under her touch, and she cringed, pulling back. The sensation of warm leather made her flesh crawl, and she rubbed her hands and arms on her jeans, trying to get the feeling to go away. Come on, Nicole, don't wimp out. Without letting herself think about it, she picked up the book and lifted the cover. A wind rushed over her, blowing her hair back, roaring in her ears. She caught a brief whiff of tobacco smoke before the surge of air reversed and sucked the breath out of her lungs, making her gasp. The floor under her quaked, the book vibrated. The leather on the cover moved, muscles beneath it flexing. Nicole tried to drop it, but couldn't. She was unable to control her hands or fingers. They clenched so tightly they ached. A shadow covered the pages of the book, preventing her from reading. What was going on? She gasped again, trying to breathe against the strong wind. Nicole felt someone touch her shoulder, but she couldn't move. Her fingers still clung to the book. The shadow on the pages shifted, roiled, and turned toward her, the brief outline of a face visible. It watched her for several moments. Nicole. The voice was soft, deep. A strange yearning inside her made her want to read the book, to understand, to join the owner of the voice, though she didn't know where or what he was. The wind slowed to a gentle and familiar caress across her cheek. Familiar? Then suddenly it all stopped. The book fell from her hands and slammed itself shut. She backed away, her arms, legs, everything shaking. What happened? Professor Coolidge asked next to her, making her jump. I don't know. Nicole tried to smooth her hair, but her hands shook too much. She tucked them under her arms. It said my name, and there was a shadow inside it. Coolidge lifted the leather book. His mouth popped open in surprise. You've activated a force within it, something alive. He looked at her, fear and worry on her face. How did you do that? Nicole shook her head. I don't know, she repeated. Professor Coolidge put the book back on the table. I'm not sure what to say other than the book is much more powerful than it used to be. He peered at her, scrutinizing her. And I'd love to know why it called to you, why you woke it up when so many others have not. And that's the end of the excerpt. I feel like I should ask you for comments.
Good job, honey.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to go into... I have updates. Okay. We're flipping a house. and we're finally getting it under control. The first 2 weeks were quite horrendous, the things we discovered there. Normal people would have died, literally. Like we're superheroes or something.
I agree.
There was a lot of dead mice everywhere, and mouse poop.
It was very difficult to hire someone to tear it out for us.
Yes. But he did a very, very good job.
He did, yes.
And yeah, so he got all the gross stuff out. Not all the dead bodies. There's still some dead bodies there. I feel like we're talking about a murder mystery. Anyway, so we are flipping a house, and this week we've hired handymen to help us so that we can get back to focusing on books, because flipping a house is time consuming.
Who knew?
Yeah, who knew?
Everybody.
This was our first house to flip, and my brother flips houses. He's flipped 4 or 5 now, and anyway, and then his realtor friend's been doing it for 8 years, and he's mentoring us through this. It's kind of exciting.
Through the grieving process.
Through the grieving process of dealing with moldy and rotted subfloors that we're having to tear out, and joists that are actually healthy, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so we are going to go on to our Patreon Patreon supporters questions, and that's you, Alice. So Alice was asking about marketing multiple pen names and managing multiple pen names while raising a toddler, which we kind of know a little bit about. Do you have any initial thoughts on that?
Don't mix them up.
Don't mix what up?
The pen names, like don't cross promote.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It totally screws you over.
Yeah, so don't tell your readers, is that what you're talking about? Don't. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so expound on that a little bit.
So like, say, for instance, fantasy and romance.
Which she's doing, and that's what I'm doing.
And that's what we did. If you tell your fantasy readers that you wrote romance, they start buying your romance books, and then in your also bots on the bottom, instead of showing your other fantasy books, it starts showing romance books.
So use me as a case.
Don't do that. We did that. Don't do it.
And this is funny because we even knew better, right?
Yeah.
But so everybody always says that, once you have your Amazon algorithms in place, it's okay to tell non-readers about, of that genre. That's not always true. And we discovered that. So the theory was, once you have a solid stream to the book of people who read that genre and download that genre, then Amazon will be like, oh, this is who reads this genre. And then you'd be safe to tell other people about it. Well, I had a very nice steady stream on my sweet Western romance books. And then I decided, I was like, I have a lot of readers who will read everything I write, and I felt bad hiding it from them. So I told my readers, and if you go to Andrea Kate Pearson's books, my romance books, you will see fantasy in my also bots, and you will see books that have nothing to do. Anyway, so I totally messed up my also bots on that, which, by the way, when you mess up your also bots, you mess up your algorithms. Amazon's.
It doesn't know who to show the ads to.
Who to show the books to? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't know who to target the ads to. It gets confused.
For the AMS ads?
Yeah, no, for the algorithms. They don't like it. You break.
Oh, you mean when Amazon sends ads out?
Yeah, because it spends a lot of time trying to be very targeted, mm-hmm. and then you make it not targeted, yep. And then it doesn't know what to target, and then it
waters down their waters down their efforts, which makes them give up, basically.
Yeah.
And my romance books still sell, even though I haven't done anything since October. No, December. Was that when we released them? December is when we released them. I've just been focusing on fantasy too much or just enough. Anyway, so marketing multiple pen names. You need to make sure that you are solid on one pen name before... I don't know, like this is a really, really tough one. I've been writing under fantasy for a really long time, since the beginning of time, since the beginning of my time as an author. And I felt confident moving over to romance, and fantasy is where I make my money. Romance has huge potential for making money, but it's really hard. I'm going to be honest. It is really hard to market 2 pen names. And it's not just, there's like the switching factor, switching cost.
But you can't mix them either. That's the problem. So you can't, you know what I mean? They have to be separate.
So like fantasy and science fiction, you could mix those together.
Those are more mixable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But fantasy and Romance, not so much.
Yeah. So my advice is make sure that you really, really want to do this, and then make sure that you've got time set aside to devote to both, because it's hard to manage one pen name, which, my Andrea Pearson is technically a pen name. It's hard to manage one author name, let alone two, especially while you're raising a toddler.
Yeah, because there's just not a lot of crossover in your workload.
Yeah, so you will be doing the same amount of work for both names. So if you're struggling with one name, just recognize that amount of work will need to be devoted to both names.
So, hire an assistant?
Yeah.
Because in order to really be successful at two, and you can be, it just takes twice as much work. I mean, it just does.
It really does, yeah.
Because you're always going to be shortchanging the one.
Yeah. In favor for the other. So my advice with that is...
And that's okay, because you can go in waves as long as they're not too far apart.
Yeah.
You can't go too long without paying attention to your romance again.
Otherwise, it kills off all of your leads.
Your momentum.
Your momentum,
we talk about how important momentum is. Part of that is algorithms.
Yeah.
Part of the momentum is Amazon realizing that your books are selling and then wanting to show it to more people.
Yep.
And so if you stop pushing that and it starts to slow down, then it also doesn't want to show people stuff.
Yeah.
And then you lose even more momentum. So anyway, we'll talk about that sort of thing as well. At some point.
So
and why spikes are bad. It's better to be slow and steady and stuff like that.
So my advice is focus on one genre for 6 months of the year and then focus on the other one. So if you are a fast writer, or even if you're not, write as much as you can under the one genre, and then don't release them, and do staggered releases while you're writing the other genre, so that you've got something coming out all the time. So basically, January through June, write a whole bunch of fantasy, and then July through December, release those once a month, or once every 2 months, or once every 3 months, however many you write. And then while you're releasing those, be writing your romance. Or, and
then as soon as you're done with romance, you can
switch back to fantasy.
Yeah.
And then you'll find whichever one you're most passionate about and which one makes you the most money. So right now I'm most passionate about fantasy, and it makes us the most money. And I do know that if I had more time, I would be writing more romance, but because romance does have a bit more of an ability to make money, because it's so much more straightforward than fantasy.
Yeah, you don't have to do all the world building stuff.
And it's hard to get a romance wrong,
Magic systems. And then being efficient at transferring that information to the reader. And so it makes sense because you're making them visualize something that's not possible. That's why it's magic.
Yeah.
And then why that works instead of, romance.
Okay, so she said she has 4 books published under her real name, Fantasy, and then she's starting a pen name to publish romance. She's only looking at having 2 names on the go at once, which I give you thumbs up on that. Don't do more than 2. Most authors I know who've done more than 2 end up killing off one of the extras or combining. Yeah.
We have nonfiction under the fantasy name.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just because that's fine. I mean,
I don't focus on my nonfiction, so it doesn't cause any problems. There's no also bots,
and they
mess
usually,
up there.
Even under ideal circumstances, usually don't outsell your main thing anyway, so it doesn't interfere. Yep. But you can do that. I mean,
And I wanted to do it under the same name because I wanted authors who were interested in reading my books to be able to say, hey, she actually does this for a living. She actually writes. So I didn't want to have that separated out. And then I also knew that I wouldn't ever hugely heavily push nonfiction. I want to, but we're raising kids,
Is 3 genres?
Yeah.
How many genres is enough?
Exactly. Anyway, so she had a question about launching price for a first book. And then she's like, it could be genre specific. She's leaning toward launching at $2.99 with a regular price of $4.99. And my question would be...
Is this Prime or Unlimited?
Is this Kindle Unlimited? Is this... Which genre is it?
I'm assuming fantasy.
She's looking at... Okay, so she's... I don't know. Okay, we'll just talk about any genre. I'm going to say launching at $2.99 is fine. I would say keep your books at $2.99 or full price $4.99 until you have multiple books out, and then consider dropping the price of the first book. But It depends on what your strategy is. If you are wanting to get a whole ton of downloads, which does lead to reviews and all that, then launching it free is a good idea. If you are wanting to get training your readers, like if you launch it free, sometimes that trains your readers all the time to expect the book to be free. I launch all of my books at full price now. I very, very rarely launch at free or at a discount, mainly because my readers, I've been doing this, and so if they're going to buy, they're going to buy. And Kindle Unlimited, you get pages read, and so I launch my new books into Kindle Unlimited, and then after they've been there for a few months, I pull and put them out wide. Let's see. Do you have any thoughts on the price?
No, that makes sense. We don't have enough information, so on to answer this one, but I think we've covered kind of the basis. The biggest question I had was if it was in Kindle Unlimited, because that changes things quite a bit.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's kind of like launching free and for full price at the same time. Mm-hmm. And also, it depends on when your next book is coming out.
Yeah.
If it's close, then I'd be more inclined to say $2.99 if you're going to release another book quickly at $4.99. Mm-hmm. As a lead-in book. But if it's going to be a long time before you release, then I don't know.
Yeah, I would say if it's not a first book in a series, launch at full price. Don't launch at a discount price, because you'll have readers who will buy your books at full price, and then you'll want to wait 6 months to a year before you discount again, because you don't want to launch at full price and then be disappointed that nobody bought it, and then drop 10 people, 30 people, 100 people bought it, and then be like, okay, well, if I drop the price, and then drop the price a few weeks later and then have more people down, you're burning your most dedicated readers when you do that. And it's also training people to wait for, a couple of weeks until you drop the price. So, okay. So I guess for this one, I should have had you read these questions a long time ago, because I didn't know you'd want follow-up questions for her. That's
fine. She can submit them.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, go ahead and if you'd like to, go ahead, Alice, and give us a little bit more information on that Kindle Unlimited, the genre and all of that, and then we can better answer that one. And then she asked if there's anything I do to help switch between marketing time and writing time. And I'll just read the rest of her thing here. To put you in the right mood for what you need to focus on, especially when I have limited time to work on my author business. I find it's hard to make sure I'm striking the right balance and keeping up momentum on both marketing and writing. I'm a project-oriented person. I don't deal well with daily maintenance. Nolan's nodding. I think I've said that a few times on this podcast. And so I do things in like big chunks. So I will take like a day or a whole week off of writing to get a marketing system set up, or to get my automation sequence going, or to, whatever I need to do. I'll take whatever time I need off of writing, because I know I will always get back to writing. And then if I drag it out, it takes forever and I never get anything done. And so with marketing, like I'll set up my Facebook ads and I'll do a whole bunch of stuff all at once, and I will monitor my ads and everything. And then I have gotten to a good system with monitoring ads where I do it about once a week or once every 2 weeks on Facebook, since they don't require as much hand holding now. And where that works out and that doesn't detract from my writing, but I don't start new ads until I am ready to take a break from a book, generally. If you are a daily maintenance type person, I would say set up a solid schedule where you write before the kid wakes up, or you write during naps, or you write after bed. And then the other times when you're doing other things, you market. And my thing as a parent, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily agree with this, is how my mom raised us. I want my kids to be as independent as possible. And so they have lots of mommy time. They get cuddles, they get hugs. I read to them and everything, but I don't spend every single waking moment entertaining them, mainly because that leads the child to grow up to believe that mommy is there to entertain them constantly, and then they get bored easily and they expect you to solve their boredom. And this has been hugely beneficial for me as a writer and a mom to young kids. I get up in the morning, I get my work done, book work done, whatever I'm working on. And then they wake up at 7:45. I get them fed, dressed, and happy. And then I set them loose on the house for an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, depending on them. And then I get more work done during that time. And It's not as easy when you only have one child. I'll have to say that. But our oldest, she's actually very independent because I was that way with her, you know. I would come up with games that were applicable to her age. Like one thing I did was I got like a wrapping paper tube, an empty one, and I taped it to the wall and I gave her a marble and I let her roll it down, and you do it at an angle, and she played with that thing for hours, and he plays with her now playing with that. So I would find little type things that she could do to entertain herself that didn't require a lot of input from me. And this is very geared to people who have kids, and I realize most of our listeners don't have kids. Probably the vast majority don't, or don't have little kids.
Her specific question is about that. So.
That's true. Good point. So I'm not wasting everybody's time. I'm actually answering her question.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and then take advantage of nap times, just making sure that some people say, and this has helped me too, the night before, make sure you know exactly what you're going to be working on the day after, the next day, so that you're ready to get working on it as soon as you wake up.
Do your most important task first.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you know that if you get online, you will never write, then you need to write first and, get that out of the way before you do any of the other little odds and ends. So here's the thing. Marketing does not matter if you are not writing books. If you're not producing more books, then it doesn't matter how much marketing you do. You will eventually run into a dead end and eventually will run out of readers. So make sure you are writing books and putting that above and beyond marketing. Okay, so that was involved. I hope that answered questions. If you have any more questions, Alice, go ahead and ask them, and we can clarify. If it's a short clarification, we can clarify and say the next episode. And if it requires longer clarification, then we'll probably put that until the next marketing episode. Anyway, so you want to give us some updates on AMS and all that?
No.
You said you had juicy details.
Well, it's. It's not applicable to the topic of this episode.
Well, I know, but we are going to, every episode, we're going to give a brief update on what we're doing.
Well, this is more, I don't want to say a secret, kind of obvious thing. It's about targeting yourself.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So, have you ever been to your own author page?
Me?
Right.
Are you asking
anybody?
me?
Just like, this is like
I'm
rhetorical.
like, they can't answer.
You, author. Hey, you, Andrea.
Yes.
Have you ever been to your homepage?
I go there every day.
Thank you.
10 times a day.
Everyone should. Hers, not your own.
Yeah, everyone should go to mine.
Andrea's page. There's at the top, right? There's like your picture, and then there's like books and a list horizontally, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also them vertically, correct?
Yep.
And then the first vertical slot is a sponsored product ad. Mm-hmm. It could very well be someone else's book. Unless you are targeting yourself, it will be somebody else's book.
Yeah.
Target yourself, because you don't want the first book people see on your own author page to be someone else's book. Do you understand? The number one search term that sells books for Andrea Pearson is Andrea Pearson. Those like 5%, I know ACOS you're not really supposed to use it's a way of measuring, but I'm talking 50% or less. Mm-hmm. Down to, I've had 2.5% ACOS sales.
Yeah.
Targeting Andrea Pearson. It seems kind of silly. Why would you spend money when they're already on your page? They've already made it to your page.
Because then they're not getting distracted away.
Because then they don't get pulled away from your page.
Yeah.
Once they're there, you want to keep them there.
Yeah.
And if they clicked on the sponsored product ad and bought the book, it's worth it.
Yeah. And you can do the same thing with titles of your books, right? Target your titles of your own books. So that...
Yeah, they don't seem to sell as much, though. Yeah. I've done Mosaic, like all the big Mosaic Chronicles, Kalenia. They do occasionally, but the number one search term that sells books for Andrea Pearson is Andrea Pearson. Mm-hmm. Period. By a lot. Yeah. By like 10 or 15 to 1 search terms. Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome. I mean,
it may take a while.
Kind of self-fulfilling because they're searching for me, but
exactly. But you're keeping the traffic of people who actually got to your page.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, there's my juicy detail. Don't let other people outbid your traffic to yourself.
Yeah.
And this may not be applicable until later when people are actually bothering to search for your books, because
that's why you run promotions and things like that.
Right. So especially do it when you're running a promotion.
Yes. Yeah.
I made sure we had a ton of those going when we did a book bub. And I captured all that traffic and kept it.
Yep.
because people will siphon off your traffic. You get a BookBub, people come to your page, see somebody else's book, and then leave.
Yeah.
You want to keep them on your page.
Yep.
That's my main thing. And sometimes people forget about you, and I don't know. It's nice to, like, they're like, don't necessarily remember the name of your book. They just remember you're an author, and like, what's that one person's book I liked again? And then they type in the name.
Yeah.
And then find you again. I don't know. Anyway, there you go. There's my tirade.
There's your little juicy tidbit about AMS ads.
Yeah, they're really effective at leading traffic to places where people will buy stuff. And if Amazon thinks someone else's book will sell on your page better than your own, then they will show someone else's ad on your page.
Okay, so an update on Facebook ads. My one box set ad finally ran its course. It was getting really good clicks and everything, but the relevancy score was going down and the cost per click was going up, the cost per click was staying about the same. The relevancy was going down, which means it was no longer relevant. The audience had run its course. And I got it up to $16 a day, which I feel really good about. I've never been able to scale an ad that much. And I took the ad, I didn't turn it off, I actually just changed the audience. Anyway, I changed the audience. How long ago did I do that? Just a couple days, right?
Just a couple days, so we don't know.
It's doing really well. It's down to 11 cents per click again.
That's good.
Yeah, so... And I dropped the cost. It's down to like $10 or $12 a day or something.
It'll take time to get data.
Exactly. So I'll keep everybody updated on that one. And that's one ad. I've also got one ad going to the Shade Amulet, and that book still sells. I mean, I still get a decent ROI on that ad. Anyway, so let's talk about launching and relaunching. Do you want to do you remember how the launch for Key of Klenya went?
The original?
Yeah, the original.
Way back in the day?
Way back in the day.
No, I don't remember.
Okay, so we launched it at free.
Oh yeah, we did.
And we are going to keep it free for a while. And after one full day, we panicked because we had so many downloads. We had a couple thousand downloads in one day. And we raised it to 99 cents.
Silly us.
That was a bad thing to do.
We should have just left it and released the second book.
We are so brand new. We had no idea. We were like, we're losing money. We weren't.
We weren't. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a mistake. You see a book getting downloaded, don't panic and be like, crap, because they wouldn't download it at a different price. That's the reason they're downloading it.
Yeah.
So you release a book at 99 cents and it's doing really, really well. And you're like, crap, I'm losing money. Raise it to $2.99. It shoots yourself in the foot, basically. So the Key of Klenya, I would have to say releasing it free was a very good idea. And the reason for that is I had 0 other books out, and the whole purpose in the beginning is not to make money. It is to set the groundwork for a future career. And so you do what you need to do to get reviews and things like that. And this is obviously not going to be, this is what has worked for me. And I'm only talking to my own experience here, but releasing in the very beginning at free will help garner traffic and reviews and things like that, especially if you go and, take my Increase Your Reviews course, which actually has got some good stuff in it.
It actually does. That's good.
It actually does. I'm so self-deprecating. Anyway, let's see. So Key of Klenya released it free. We raised the price 99 cents. We made $30 in one day. And we were like, woo!
We're rich.
Yeah, we thought it was so awesome. And then sales dropped to 0 because everybody's like, wait, I thought it was going to be free. And then Ember Gods, we released Ember Gods. So that was, we released Ember Gods a few months later. And then we released Samara the next month after that. Now, here's where we should have, we made a whole lot of, push the Key of Klenya quite heavily, which we should not have done because I had thousands and thousands of downloads and then we had very few downloads on the next book because I, didn't have anything for them to read after they downloaded that first book.
Book 2 and 3 are your most important books, I guess. I mean, you're creating a habit in people. You can't create a habit with one book.
So what do you mean? What do you mean creating a habit?
Like for them to read, they want, they read something. Reading Andrea Pearson's book should be somebody's habit.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
If you have one book, it can't be a habit.
Yeah, they're not gonna.
And then you're done.
No, yeah, And studies have shown that readers don't even remember names of authors until they've read 3 or 4 books. And so that's true. I mean, I've read 2 or 3 books of several authors and I can't even remember their names, you know? We launched Key of Kalenia, and then when we launched Ember Gods, we did all the same things all over again. We put a lot of money toward it, and they had nowhere to go. Like, there's only 2 books. And nowadays, it's even worse than that. There's so much more competition. This was in 2011, you know? And then I released Samara, which was a passion project that I don't know. It actually was our best-selling book for a long time because it was in the romance genre and it had a cute cover. But it did nowadays, I mean, 2 fantasies and then 1 romance that was tied to the fantasies in ways that confused people, you know, because they saw that it was a Kalenia romance, so they're expecting magic and there was no magic in it, and Jacob wasn't even in it. And anyway,
it was a side character. I mean, she's
his brother's girlfriend.
Yeah.
It was a cute story, and it's still it's not anymore one of my best downloaded books, but it was for quite some time. Okay, so then August Fortress came out, and we started doing things. We started learning, and I put Key of Kalenia up at free, perma-free, and that's when we actually started making money in the triple digits per month, which, yeah. I mean, I was pretty excited about that. Middle grade fantasy. Nowadays, I understand how hard it is to sell middle grade fantasy, you know? And then, anyway, so then we released the books every few months after that, and we did it pretty much on schedule, like every 4 months, you know? And so sales steadily increased. I did not do any major launches, and I still do not do big launches. And we can talk about that in a little bit, but okay, we can talk about it right now. So a big launch, I'm still not, I think that if you are aiming for Amazon algorithms, it's really easy to mess up a big launch, and big launches tend to be very important if you're in Kindle Unlimited. My thing with big launches, if you're going to do it, make sure you do it right. Make sure you send the right traffic there. Make sure you have a lot of reviews. Make sure you've got the right price for other books. Like look at the other books in your genre. What are they being launched at? And then the right promotional websites. I mean, it's so easy to mess up a big launch and lose a lot of money. And so what I generally do is I do big launches occasionally, but I generally save my marketing money for promotions that are epic, that are huge. And I usually wait until there's several books in the series. And a lot of the time it'll be like I'm releasing book 5, but I put all my money to book 1. And so it's kind of like a launch for book 5, but it's mostly pushing book 1. And I've had a lot more success doing that than with doing big launches. And most of my books, this is all because my books are all wide. And so things are a little different when you're not in Kindle Unlimited. But for Kindle Unlimited, for the Shade Amulet, we released in December, and then we did a huge push in January, and it's done well. It's still holding on to that, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to, especially when it's your very first book.
Yeah.
Because people will look at like your other books, and you don't have any other books. They'll be like, what other books has this person wrote? How many reviews do they have? Do people like them? There isn't any of that information.
Yeah.
It's just like one book with no reviews.
Yeah, there's no track record, and so they don't that social proof is not there, and so they're not as willing to take a risk, you know. Let's see. So when I released Discern, I did things a little bit differently. I wanted to make sure that I did Discern right, and by right I mean I had 200 to 300 beta readers, and this was all marketing. It wasn't necessarily because I didn't have confidence in the writing. I did 200 to 300 beta readers because it was like, they were like art copies. So what I did was I wrote the first 2 chapters. I got feedback on those 2 chapters, and it was basically me finding clever, quote unquote, clever ways to get new readers, because a lot of those readers stuck around and they now buy my books at full price. And the reason I did beta readers is, I don't know, it kind of feels a little manipulative right now saying it. I did it so that they would have a reason to read my book, you know, I read their feedback.
I'm fine with manipulation. For profit. I think it's fine.
You're so evil. He's totally serious.
It's called advertising in general. Congratulations, point. You did like a stealth advertising campaign. That's regular. Like, hey, would you like this free soda? I mean, like when I was in college, like pizza trucks and soda trucks would show up and give us stuff. And then if you liked it, then you would go to the student union and buy one later.
Yeah, but I wasn't necessarily needing feedback on the book.
Well, that's what they'd ask us. They're like, hey, please, they would ask us for what we thought.
Okay.
Like, literally, they're like, here, try this.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Or try this new topping, and then if you liked it, we'd end up getting one later on, with our own money.
Yeah, I used 200 to 300. Yeah, so okay. But I also did look for patterns in, I did notice a pattern of, hey, Nicole's a little bit not nice, and I was able to fix that and things like that. And then
people should connect with your main character.
Yeah.
They don't have to like everything about them, but they should,
I tend to be very blunt, and she was a little bit blunt in her thoughts that made people, I don't know. So then, so when I finished the book, I released it as a perma-free, and I kept it up as a perma-free for a very long time. And because my goal was not to get downloads on Discern, my goal was to get it reviewed. And it is a lot easier to get a verified review on a free book. And you want verified reviews. And so I talked to those people who'd read the first 2 chapters, and I had them download Discern as a free book, and then give me feedback, and then they could read the book again after I'd made changes, and then they'd post a review. My goal with that was to build up those reviews while I was writing the rest of the series. So I wrote the next 5 books in the series, and I didn't start releasing them until the next summer. So Discern came out in October 2014, and I started releasing the next books in the series in July of the next year, I believe. And I released one a month starting in July until November-ish. And I had a good deadline. That was when our second child was due. We had very, very big months starting in October and November. And that was a really good launch, and I would love to do that again.
I guess what we're saying is the launch doesn't have to happen when the book comes out.
Yeah, yep.
You can prep beforehand.
Yeah.
To get some social proof before you really push it.
And this is for Kindle Unlimited and wide books, because Kindle Unlimited, those first few days and those first few weeks are really important for algorithms. But as a new author, it's a lot harder to take advantage of the algorithms, especially when you don't understand them very well and without a whole lot of books and experience under your belt.
Kindle Unlimited requires you to release very quickly.
It does. So
within weeks.
Like there's a 14-day drop off, there's an 18-day drop off, 30-day, 90-day, 60-day. I mean, the faster you release within reason, the better your books will do. So releasing one a day, you're not giving the algorithms time to build up enough. You want to have, a little bit more time than that, but frequent releases. My thing is, if you screw up a launch, it's not a big deal. Like you can always redo it, especially if you're doing a series. You re-promote that first book every time you launch another book in the series. I feel like authors tend to panic too much over launches, and they tend to panic so much that they freeze themselves and they immobilize themselves, and they end up either making bad decisions or not doing anything.
I think it's because there's so much effort built up in writing a book that they want it all. They release it and then expect
fireworks and confetti.
Yeah. When it's something that happens slightly later.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, that's also a big launch is something that big publishing used to push heavily.
That's because they measured everything off sales velocity.
Yeah. Those first few days, if a book didn't do well in the first week or two, they usually dropped it.
Yeah, because they'd move on to the next one. They wouldn't have time to invest. All the money they made was up front.
Yeah.
And everything went down from there.
Yep. And
so indie authors sometimes have that mentality as well, where it's, if I don't start out big, it's over, and it's all downhill from there, and that's not necessarily
that's
true.
That's not the case. I mean, looking at the release of Key of Kalenia versus the release of, I don't know, what's been one of my biggest releases. Withhold had a really, really successful release. Withhold is book 9 in my Mosaic Chronicles. There's huge difference there, and so the release for Withhold, we did a lot of different things with that, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But I know that Amazon algorithms, they favor big, heavy launches. But at this point, if a big, heavy launch is going to freeze you up and make you unable to do anything, don't worry about them.
Write your next book.
Do a quiet launch, focus on getting reviews. And then, I mean, this kind of stuff, if it stresses you out, then it's just going to make it so that you can't be effective. And your goal is to be an author, not to be, somebody who, worries over all the marketing and promoting and all that.
Which is part of it. You have to do that. You have to wear that hat, but
yeah,
not at the expense of actually. I mean, you can't promote if you don't have a book.
Yeah. You can build a newsletter list if you don't have a book.
There's no point.
You're not going to make any money.
Like literally no point. Like the only reason why marketing is even a thing is because you wrote a book.
Yeah.
So write books.
Yeah, exactly. Also, releasing a new book is a great way to promote a previous book, especially if it's in the same series,
Right, and you can put that in there, like in to celebrate my third book coming out. Book 1 is on sale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people do that all the time. It's not weird.
Okay, so my recommendation is to write with minimal advertising until you have a solid backlist. And by solid, I mean like 6+ books, hopefully in the same series. Then hit the first book hard. And you want to make sure that first book is solid. So pay attention to your reviews, especially if it's the first book you've ever written or ever published. Pay attention to your reviews. See if there's a theme that you're noticing. Have a whole ton of beta readers read it, and then you can edit it quietly and re-release it and then hit it hard. You don't want to do a huge promotional push when you know there's problems with that first book. And make sure that the book covers are solid and things like that. And then you can focus on successful launches thereafter for each and every book you release if that's what you want to do. But don't panic over launches. But promotions and launches, so there's several different methods, and Nolan talked a little bit about it, like the momentum and things like that, so a big spike. So go ahead and explain why a spike is bad.
A spike is bad. It's a sugar high. So you're driving artificial traffic from usually outside of Amazon by BookBub, for instance, to Amazon, and then immediately the traffic drops.
Yeah.
And Amazon notices that the traffic is dropping and so doesn't push it internally, because it can see that it's going down, not up. So if you start high and then drop immediately, the algorithms know not to sustain your advertising internally.
Yep.
And they won't start, those little ads you see all over Amazon, like sponsored product, blah, 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 all that stuff. It doesn't populate those with your stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we do something different.
Yeah. Yep, we do. Very gradual and slow lead up.
Right. So when we do a major promotion or launch or whatever, we have a lot of other, like say we know when we're pushing for a BookBub, we'll get like 10 or 20, I don't even know how many, other promotions from other advertising websites, and then have them on days before BookBub and after.
Yeah, I'll have like the smallest one first, and then leading up to the biggest one, then BookBub, and then I have big ones leading down to small ones after.
Right, because when BookBub hits, it's going to be big, but then you want to stay up there, so you have advertising afterwards to keep it high, so that when Amazon sees that you're selling steadily at a specific level, then they start to realize, the algorithms notice that it's not just a one-off. And then pick you up and then start promoting you. Yeah,
and so the reason why you want to do a lead up to BookBub and then a lead down, and by the way, this advice holds for non-BookBub. So like if you write fantasy, Book Barbarian is a really good place to advertise, and same with like Robin Reads and things like that.
Fussy Librarian still.
Fussy Librarian doesn't do as, they do well, but they're not one of the bigger ones. So you don't have to have BookBub to have a successful book launch. And in my Big Bang Promotions course, I actually talk about a promotion I ran that had no BookBub that got me almost 10,000 downloads. It was really good. So the goal is to have your heavy hitter be in probably the 3/4 mark, and have a slow gradual lead up to it and then a slow taper off. And the reason you want to do a taper off is because then Amazon sees that it's still getting attention after that big spike. You don't want it to drop off suddenly, because then, like Nolan said, Amazon's like, oh, well, this is no longer relevant, and they stop.
Yeah, you get a relevance score. It doesn't tell you what it is, but it decides whether you matter or not.
Yeah, basically.
And if you're there one day and then gone the next, you don't matter.
Yep.
You have to be selling every day to matter.
Yeah, exactly. So I talk about this much more in detail in that Big Bang's Promotions course. I basically lay out my entire schedule leading up to, and for the one that we did that got us, how many downloads did we get? 60,000 downloads on Discern over like a month and a half period. I had a lead up to my BookBub of I think about a month. It was a very, very involved and really fun promotion to plan. Let's see. So that's promotions, launches, and all that. And yeah, so your launch doesn't need to be huge, but you want to plan big promotions about once every quarter to once every 6 months on your books, not necessarily on the same book.
No, it's better if you do different books.
Yeah.
You'll get fatigue, and they won't be very effective.
Yeah, and some places won't even accept you that often.
Yeah, for the same reason, because they don't want to push a book that won't get downloaded. That's why people come to them. They're like, why is this book being promoted again? You know, the users, and they're just not going to want to go to their website or use their service anymore.
Exactly.
They want to see new stuff, or at least stuff they haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I do that gets people to download. So Kindle Unlimited with my Shade Amulet series book, I have not hit my readers very heavily with that. It's never dropped lower than $2.99, which is its full price pretty much. And I know that most of my readers have not downloaded it, but I'm waiting until, and it's because it's the first book in a new series. And so even your dedicated readers will hesitate to start a new series. So just keep that in mind.
It even has a character from the other series as the main character. So it's not even a character they're unfamiliar with. Yeah,
but there's still hesitation. I hesitate to start new series by favorite authors, you know. I'm going to be planning a big promotion. I'm hoping to get a BookBub, obviously, but if I don't get one, it's not going to be the end of the world. I'll still do my promotion. But what I'll do with that one is I will do download bonuses, incentives for people. It's an ethical bribe for people to download, and I also talk about that in the Big Bang Promotions course. I tell you exactly how to run that. But what I've done in the past is I've used just odds and ends, little things, bits of artwork that we've done. I've turned my book covers into coloring pages. These are things that my readers actually requested. Word searches, other authors' books. Let's see, what else? Just random things that my own books, just random things that my readers would like. And so download bonuses are huge. They're a great way to get people to actually download who don't normally download. They don't work if readers have bought your book already, though, because they won't be able to download it again. And and you can always be like, well, download on a different retailer, but most people aren't going to go to a retailer where they don't normally buy books. My rule is if you're in Kindle Unlimited, don't give away book one for free, and don't give away, unless your model is to release your first book at a discount, don't discount your books until 6 months to a year later and then hit things really, really hard. All right. Do you want to talk about relaunching the Kalenia Chronicles compared to, just relaunching it completely?
Have you ever been to a grocery store and then you're looking for like some crackers you like and you can't find them, and then you notice that it has a different box and it says new look on it?
Same great taste.
Same great taste. They even tell you the box is just different.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to redo your covers.
Yeah.
Because the tastes change. When we did Key of Kalenia, it was way early in the self-publishing thing. So they're above average at the time.
The book covers were?
The book covers were.
Yeah.
And then they were not. And then they were below average.
Yes.
A few years later. And they looked dated. So part of the launch was not realizing which genre it was supposed to be in precisely.
Are you talking about with the older book covers?
That too.
The new old ones?
Yeah. They didn't fit the genre anymore. And then content-wise, we tried to retcon them into the bigger series, the Mosaic Chronicles.
I always wanted to have Jacob in my Kalenia Chronicles be 16, but I had my previous publisher wanted him to be 14, which is a dead zone, by the way. 18 is also another dead zone. If you're writing YA, you want your characters to be 16-ish, and if you're writing middle grade, you want them to be 12-ish, and if you're writing adult, you want them to be 30. Honestly. And that's because, how many people consider a 22-year-old to be an adult? Not many. People don't consider them to be grown-ups and interesting to read. Yeah,
they're just
legally
failed grown-ups.
Well, whatever.
If you're not a grown-up by the time you're 22, you're a failed adult. There.
Oh, really?
That's my opinion. So grow up.
That's funny because where were you at when you were 22?
Living on my own. I was in college, actually.
Oh, were you? Okay, I thought that was when you were living in your mom's basement.
No, that was after college, like everyone.
Like everyone else. That's amazing. Anyway, so your main characters need to be in their 30s if you're writing adults. I mean, sometimes you can get away with younger, but I pull my readers about everything, and my readers who prefer adult fiction, they say they don't like reading about people who are in their 20s because they're still in college, they're dealing with, you know, stuff that's becoming an adult. So going through college, getting a career, and starting a family, they'd rather read about people who are established as adults. So that's a little bit side thing there. That was totally off topic.
No, I agree though. I mean, even if you're really responsible in 22, you haven't done any adult stuff yet.
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, James Bond's not 22. He'd be boring as a 22-year-old. You know, he'd be like Johnny English.
He'd be a British naval officer.
Oh, that's true. Good point. We relaunched the Clenny Chronicles with my main character being 2 years older, and it's done so much better. I mean, it's almost outsold let's see, Clenny's series was up from 2011 through 2017, and it's been 6 months now since we released the new series, and they've done almost as well as the book had done the series had done in 6-7 years. So we gave them new book covers, and we launched them under new ASINs. Do you want to explain why we decided to relaunch them as completely new books?
All of the old reviews didn't correlate with the new material.
That was a side reason.
Okay.
The main reason is algorithms.
Oh, that too. We wanted to start over because they were trained to look for different people.
Yeah. Yep.
The audience was a different audience than the one we wanted.
I actually totally screwed myself over. I advertised with romance authors, and so the Key of Klenia's also bots were like all over the place. Nonfiction and fiction and thrillers and romance. It was a mess.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, relaunching under a new ASIN, it's like a fresh start. So we had new book covers, new descriptions.
Had to give up all the old reviews and all the old stuff, but it
doesn't even care. I mean, I don't even care. I mean, Key of Klenia had like 200 reviews, but
yeah, just keep in mind you are losing all that stuff.
You're losing that stuff, but you're gaining so much more. I feel like that's like very dramatic.
You're potentially gaining more, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure you do it the right way, though. So you relaunch, make sure you get lots of reviews.
If you do any shared promotions, make sure they're with the same genre.
Yeah, same genre with other authors. Yeah, I do recommend doing newsletter swaps and things like that with people who are in the same genre, not just same genre, but same subgenre.
It's nice to, after, I guess, if you do a soft launch and then you see who else buys the books, and you can
do a hard launch.
You can target those authors.
Yeah.
Because they're similar.
Well, if you're doing a relaunch, then you'll already be familiar with who your audience is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we relaunched the Clenny Chronicles in November. We released all of the books the same day, which read-through was pretty awesome. I mean, we had a really good read-through. I did learn that teen epic fantasy is still a hard sell because it's not quite...
Being number 2 in epic teen fantasy is...
Yeah.
Number 100,000.
Yeah. No, it was like number 4,000 or something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah. 4,000.
It wasn't nearly as fantastic as we would have hoped it would be.
Or teen royalty.
Yeah, actually, I was in teen royalty because he is a teen royal. So
yeah, no, we were like top 10 teen royalty.
Yeah.
Fantasy royalty. For whatever that's worth.
Exactly. So it's still a tough sell, but it sells much, much better.
It does sell much better.
And I did a lot of changes in that book editorial wise. You know, it wasn't just his age. I did make quite a few changes in the story itself. So if you're thinking about relaunching, what are the questions they should ask themselves?
Okay. What makes me feel like relaunching would be a good idea?
Yeah.
What is it specifically? Do you think it's your book cover, the genre?
Do you want a fresh start and think you could do better now?
Yeah, because you're going to need to do all those things anyway. Have a clear idea of why you want to relaunch and what your target is. Yeah. Maybe you targeted the wrong people the first time, and maybe your editing doesn't need to be changed that much, but since you were advertising to the wrong people, it wasn't effective. And so Amazon or whoever's algorithms are looking at the wrong people trying to sell that book to them, and then they're not buying it, and you're not getting anywhere.
Yep.
Because you're like, hey, this person, I'm looking for this person, buy my book. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
But that's the pool of people, some of which did buy it. So the Amazon mistakenly thinks that those are the people that are most likely to buy your book because it's the only people that it's seen.
Yeah.
That's what we mean by algorithms, like the program that decides who to show what to.
Okay, so I mean, what are the reasons why? I mean, to fix algorithms. I mean, what else? Why else would somebody want to relaunch?
Book cover, like I said, it doesn't fit the genre anymore.
Yeah, and you don't have to do relaunch as a new ASIN to switch the book covers out. But it does. I mean,
on its own, that wouldn't be enough per se. But because you can just upload a new cover.
Well, that's what I did with Discern. Remember, I've got the case studies in my course where I relaunched with a new book cover without a new ASIN, and we had a huge successful promotion.
Just like that box of crackers.
Just like the box of crackers. It caught new attention.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, this isn't where things would normally be. What color is this? And then, it's not like the other colors on the shelf.
Yeah. Got attention, yeah, exactly. If you want to relaunch as a new ASIN, you need to be prepared, obviously, to lose your reviews. You can have Amazon switch them over. But in my case, I didn't want to because they all mentioned that the book was great for younger kids, and that it no longer was. I mean, his dad gets kidnapped and tortured. So
that's real life. Why can't kids know about torture?
Yes. So you want to decide, I mean, do you want to lose reviews in favor of a boost in the algorithms? Because Amazon does favor new books over old books. This
is also true.
And then
just make sure when you redo it, like I said, make sure you know why you're doing it and then what was, the difference between then and now.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like I was here and I want to be here.
Yeah.
How do I change my cover and my content to equal this new targeting that I want to go for so that you don't mess all of the also bots and stuff up again?
Yeah. Yeah.
If that's what happened the first time,
So, and also, I mean, I changed the title for the first book in the series, but I left all the other titles pretty much the same, removing the word "the" from them. That's not a problem. Amazon doesn't even care. And it helps readers know that it's the same series, basically. And I kept the series title. I changed it from Klenia Series to Klenia Chronicles because I don't want... One of the worst things you can do is actually treat it like a completely brand new book and then expect your readers to download it. You will get negative reviews, I promise. Because you're like, hey, I released this new book. They're going to be like... If you're not completely upfront about it in the description and the inside of the book as a note, I mean, people sometimes don't even read the description. They just see it's a new book from their favorite author. And so you need to find ways to make sure that they know, because you will get reviews that comment that, hey, this was the same book I read before,
Yeah.
So yeah, it is possible to have a relaunch that is a soft relaunch that is not a completely new book. And you do that just by running I just changed something about it, a description or the book cover, and then push it heavily and run a big promotion. If you have any questions, what's that?
This is all juicy stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to hear what people think about this. If you have any questions about marketing, go ahead and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/self-publish-strong, and we would love to answer your questions in a future episode. And if you want to have an excerpt of your book read on the air, then go ahead and support us and all of that. What is our schedule for next week? What are we doing next week? Do you remember?
No.
Crap, and I don't have my folder right here.
We are going to do a podcast next week on stuff.
On a movie?
Yes.
Was it Thor Ragnarok?
And we can do that one.
No, we've got a schedule we've already announced.
So listen to our last podcast.
Yeah, listen to our last podcast and we'll tell you what movie we're watching for next week.
We're a week off, I think.
Yeah, we are. We're still a week off.
My voice is doing better.
Yeah, and my voice is starting to die now.
Sorry. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It really is because it was miserable. Like, seriously, 2 weeks, I could barely talk.
Yeah, the kids and Nolan were all sick, and I was like, yay, I'm not going to get sick, and I've been eating vitamin C, and today I started feeling sick. So if you have any questions about Patreon, about the courses, anything like that, go ahead and send me an email at andrea@selfpublishstrong.com, and go grab your copy of Big Bang Promotions for 50% off, and use the What was the coupon code I said? Just because?
Just because, my favorite code.
Yes. Selfpublishedstrongcourses.com for the Big Bang Promotions course that expires on next Saturday night, which is, did I say June 23rd at
something? Yes.
Yeah, something like that at midnight. I am very tired. I think we're going to end this podcast episode now. You okay with that?
Yeah. If you don't remember, listen to the beginning of this podcast when we covered it at the beginning. Yes.
Exactly. Anyway, thank you for listening and have a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.